Hey guys, it's Candace.
And it's Elena.
And you're listening to Cousins on Crime.
Hey.
Hello.
How's your day been?
Well, it's a Tuesday.
It is.
I hate Tuesdays, and yet it's my fault. We always record on a Tuesday. Oh.
Yeah. We're like, okay, Monday. See you Monday.
Okay, see you Monday. And then here comes the text message from Candace.
Can we do tomorrow?
Oh, so are you going to be ready? AKA, I'm not ready.
I'm like, does she want me to say I can wait, or just,
I just hate a Tuesday. It's just, and today was the worst Tuesday because it was a Monday.
Yeah.
It was a Monday Tuesday because of the
That's
holiday.
right.
So, yeah, it was just catching up. I had a meeting this morning to pick out my windows and order those.
Oh, yeah.
So I was gone for 2-3 hours, had to jump back into work. When I got home. It was just the whole day. It was back to back to back. So
yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, just work, meetings and such. Nothing exciting. I did go to the gym and I sweat my booty off.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I bet you feel good after that.
Yeah, but I haven't had a shower, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Well, at least you're on the other end of the table.
Yeah, we're a few feet away.
Oh man. Well, so we got potatoes.
I know,
We have potatoes and they have addresses on them.
Yes.
And one has an actual dress on it.
An address and a dress.
In a dress. Yeah, I went and got some potatoes and we fully addressed them.
That's right. They'll be sent out tomorrow. So when you get them, ladies, I want pictures.
Yeah, make sure you tag us and we want to make sure you got them for show. Okay, well, should we just dive in?
Come on with
to the case? I've kind of got a long one. I told you my research got a little bit out of hand because I used a book for this episode as my primary source. It was called No Safe Place by Bill Cox. And I'll link it in the show notes if you guys want to order it. I always love using a book, like a true crime book, for my research because you just get so much more about the victim, how they grew up. And just because it's like in a writer's nature to establish all of that in the story.
That is a good point. Yeah.
So I just always feel like it's such a wealth of knowledge. And I was really excited to find a book on this case. It was November 9th, 1994. It was probably just getting chilly in Atascocita, Texas, which is a small suburb of Houston.
Down south.
Right. Laura Hoelscher, I hope I'm saying that right, had recently got back home from her Wednesday night church service when she kicked off her shoes and finally sat down. Oh, after a busy day, isn't that the best? Well, her baby who had fallen asleep in the car was still in his car seat, so they did not touch him. They just brought him in and sat him on the floor. But he started to get a little bit fussy about this time. It was 7:30 p.m. and it was Num Num's time. Laura gently picked up her baby and began to nurse him while chatting with her husband. And they actually had another friend over that had followed them home after church and was visiting with them. And she was sitting on a couch that was facing the large picture window in her living room. So her gaze was kind of drawn from the conversation at times, you know, to the things going on outside. Yeah. So she saw her neighbor, Farah Fratta, open her garage, pull down the street, back into her garage. She saw that the garage lights came on and Laura looked down for just a moment to, I don't know, smile at her baby, watch it,
Yeah.
suckle,
Gaze.
I don't know. Suddenly, she hears a pop coming from Farah's house.
No.
Laura's husband approached the window and commented that Farah's boys were probably ambushing her in the garage with firecrackers or something. But just then another pop rang out in her garage. And he didn't see any children. He saw Farah fall to the ground.
No.
Laura immediately called 911.
Oh my gosh.
And here we have a really unique account because this situation was ongoing. And Laura was able to walk the dispatcher through what she had just seen and what was currently still unfolding. She described the 2 pops, that she now knows they were gunshots, and she's on the phone when she sees a shadowy figure standing by the tree in Farah's yard.
No way.
Yeah, so she's like, oh, there's somebody in her yard, and this is all unfolding. And her husband and their friend crowd around the large window with a clear view of everything that's going on. They're just looking on in horror.
Yeah.
They felt helpless. Like they wanted to help her, but like they didn't know what to do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because you can't run outside.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
what are they going to do to you?
Right. Exactly. And it's about that time that they realize all their lights were on and her garage light had gone off. So their house across the street is like illuminating and they've got their faces pressed up to the window watching this. And they're like, oh crap,
back away slowly.
We better. And the husband, Darren, was like, turn off all the lights. You know, like he may be on his way over here next. Who knows?
Oh, how frightening.
Yeah. So they did see the shadowy figure walking towards the street, towards their house.
Okay.
But just then a car pulled up with a burnt out headlight and slowed down right in front of Farah's house. And she's still on the phone with 911 this whole time, describing the shooter. You know, he's getting in this silver car.
Oh, wow.
And then they took off and that was it.
Wow.
And so Laura's husband, Darren, and their friend visiting Elizabeth ran to the door because they felt like we can go over there now.
Yeah, he's
gone. And I mean, certainly you could have in the back of your mind that this isn't over.
Right. They could come back.
But they really wanted to help her. They thought if we help her now, she has a chance.
Yeah.
So Darren moved his car. He turned his car around so that his headlights were pointing towards her house. And he actually pulled up into her driveway because, like I said, her garage light had turned off at that point. It was like automated. And Elizabeth ran down the street to a neighbor's house. It was actually Farah's parents' friends that lived just down the street. So she wanted to get down there and get word to Farah's parents that something had happened.
Quick thinking.
It is like,
wow.
And that's what I said. It's a really unique situation because, you know, we often rely on eyewitness testimony or accounts retroactively, and they're trying to remember things. But here we have something that's unfolding and she's saying everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And so it was great to have all of that information.
Absolutely.
So Darren finally able to approach Farah. He knelt down and saw blood coming from her head. She wasn't moving. Her eyes were wide open and all the color had gone from her face. She was still alive because she was gasping for breath, but he said she looked so pale. And he didn't know what to do. Like, he was nervous to move her because the blood was just flowing from her head wound.
Oh, yeah.
But just about that time, thank God EMS pulled up because
so fast.
It was so fast because of how fast Laura called 911. And it just took them minutes to get there. Darren shouted, over this way, she's in here. And then when the EMS came into the garage, he was like, can I go check on the children? Because he thought Farah's kids were home.
Oh.
Maybe with a babysitter. All the lights were off, but he was just like concerned about her children. She had 3 kids. But all the doors were locked and he wasn't able to go in. So he just thought, okay, the kids aren't home. Police presence arrived shortly after EMS, who had already started working hard on trying to save Farah's life. Life Flight was on their way, touching down just a couple blocks away. By now, Farah's parents had arrived.
Oh.
So,
my
like you
gosh.
say, everything's happening so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
She was still there when her parents arrived, and her dad was scratching through the crowd, like
my goodness,
trying to make it over that yellow tape. And he was, of course, stopped, but he begged. He said, please, I must get to her.
Oh, so did they let him?
No, they didn't. He could see her. He could see her legs.
Oh my gosh, that's so heartbreaking.
EMS was all around her, trying to save her life. And he could see her legs maybe moving from them working
jostling
on
her body. Yeah.
Right. But she wasn't having any voluntary movements. But he just called out to her, Dad's here, baby. Dad's here. They loaded Farah up onto a stretcher and rushed her off to the helicopter that was waiting. And as they wheeled her off, an officer told Farah's dad, Lex Baker, that it appeared that the bullet just grazed her.
Oh.
Like it was just a grazing wound. And he thought that they better go to the hospital and meet her there. So they took her to Herman Hospital. And as far as making her way to the hospital, Lex Baker spots Farah's ex-husband, Robert, walking down the street with his grandchildren. Lex's grandchildren.
Okay.
Robert's children. He was very angry because he knew that the estranged couple had a strict routine. Lex explained to a nearby officer, like he just made a comment like, oh, well, where was he? He was supposed to be here at 8.
Oh, really?
By this time it's like 8:45. And that was their arrangement on that Wednesday night. And because of their contentious divorce, they were ordered to keep a routine and it must be followed.
Right.
It was a nasty situation. So if Bob had been there when he was supposed to be, maybe Farah would have been safe. Who knows?
Yeah.
When Farah's family arrived at the hospital, they were guided into a small waiting room where they learned the worst. You see, the doctors had discovered another gunshot wound to Farah's head that EMS didn't see before.
Oh, wow.
And that once hopeful situation had now vanished because that bullet had gone straight into her brain.
Oh, geez.
Their beloved 33-year-old Farah was dead.
Farah.
I know. So let me tell you about her. She lived an interesting life for sure. Farah Famida Baker was born August 5th, 1961 in Surrey, England. I love Surrey. She was a sweet kid and a great student. One of her favorite subjects in school was geography, and she'd actually traveled a lot in her short life. When she was 3, her family moved to the Far East, and she attended a school in Bangladesh, an English-speaking school, but just being immersed in another culture for the 6 years that they lived there was amazing. In secondary school or senior school, which here in the U.S. we call high school, she excelled in schoolwork and she was quite athletic, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, she played tennis and hockey.
What? That's a tough sport.
And she was on the swim team.
Okay.
I hope it was an indoor swim team. I cannot even imagine swimming in England ever. I mean, it gets hot there, but I guess because the last few times I've been there, it's been
cold.
Bloody cold.
Yes.
So she also loved sewing and baking cakes for her dad. She was just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Love it.
Yeah, she was cool. So in 1981, her father got a wild hair and he wanted to move the family from England to America.
Whoa, big step.
Okay, I say a wild hair. It wasn't exactly a wild hair. He loved the U.S.
Okay.
Lex Baker loved the U.S.
So he had already been here before.
Oh, yeah. He had come here on numerous business trips. Ohio, Virginia, Texas. And so he had just always thought, oh man. And he was at a lull in his career at the time. He was kind of in between projects. And so he thought, I wonder if I could start a business in America and see how that goes. And so he was in Ohio and he called up his family and he was like, hey, what do you say? His wife is like, no. I mean, she wasn't too keen in the beginning, but she came around when he said, okay, we don't have to live in Ohio. She's like, I don't want to live anywhere cold.
Yeah.
She's like, if I'm moving to America, I want someplace warm.
Yeah. It's not going to be Ohio.
Exactly. And so he was like, well, what about Texas? Because
it's warm here.
It's warm here most of the time. He loved movies about Texas, like just
Westerns.
Cowboys and, you know, he just, the wide open plains, you know, the tumbleweeds. I mean, we have tumbleweeds like in what?
The Panhandle.
West Texas or the Panhandle.
Do you remember that time we went?
Yes,
we
they
traveled.
Were huge.
I know. We had to stop and take pictures with these tumbleweeds because they were huge.
We did. And you know what's funny? I was telling Dusty that story.
Oh, yeah.
They have tumbleweeds.
No way.
Just like in the parking lot at the grocery store in
I
Vegas.
Guess, yeah, it's the desert. Yeah. So I can see that.
And so she sent me a picture one day. She had to stop her car and get out and move this tumbleweed.
She's like, here's your tumbleweed.
I know. And she's like, just so you know what I'm like dealing with over here.
It's the little things.
Amazing. I was like, save it for me. I don't know. I'm just
put it
strange.
Yeah,
but,
as a decoration in your house.
Yeah. But it's funny because my mother-in-law loves America.
Aww.
I think, you know, you just get something in your mind of things that you've seen on TV and you just like, kind of why I just up and moved to Charleston, because I was like, yeah, I just want to be there.
Well, it's beautiful there.
It's beautiful. I fell in love with it. You know, The Notebook, One Tree Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'm going there. I'm just going to move there. And, you know, he loved it. He loved the idea of Texas. And so he got his wife to agree. And he even got his son Zane to quit his job, which, by the way, you know, Zane has grown, Farah's grown at this point. They have jobs in London.
Wow.
And so he convinced Zane to go into business with him in the U.S.
Wow.
Zane was like, all right.
This is crazy, but let's do it.
This is crazy, but let's do it. Farah, on the other hand, did not want to move at all. She was 19 years old.
Oh, wow. Such a pivotal age.
And she was engaged.
Oh, really?
So like, no, I'm not moving.
Yeah. But my whole family is going. So
I mean, all her friends were in England.
Yeah.
The same friends she had grown up with, and she was settled. She was planning to marry someone, and she probably thought that growing up in her small town, that's how her life would go. She would never leave. She just really didn't want to move to the U.S. And her dad was like, baby, why don't you just give it a chance? Like, give it a month. And if you don't like it, you can always come back. Like, we can always come back. All of us can come back if we don't like it. I think she had just quit her job or something at that time. I think there was a reason for her to say yes.
Like it just...
A very reluctant yes. But she did give it a chance. And when she got to Texas, she really struggled.
Oh, no.
I mean, everyone else seemed to be thriving, like
moving on.
The mom was out there sunbathing, you know, Zane and his dad were, you know, had gotten their business put together, and she just cried a lot.
Oh,
she cried a lot. She missed her fiance. He had come here to visit her a couple times as she went there, and she decided to get a job here, which is surprising. I don't know if she just thought, I'm going to give it some more time. Maybe she had a question about her fiance and wasn't really sure about that, but she ended up working for American Airlines as a ticket agent.
Oh.
And she put in for British Airways and American, and she was hoping for British Airways.
Right.
But American was the only one hiring, so...
Well, this way she could meet new people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, there's tons of people coming through the airport.
Thank you. Because she did meet someone new.
Okay.
Someone she was looking and liking.
Okay.
His name was Robert Fratta.
Mm-hmm.
She was engaged. Okay. Let's be clear. She had a diamond ring on her finger. But she was really taken with this guy. I mean, he was charming, charismatic, muscly. In the book, it refers to him as being the physique of a Greek god or something like that.
Oh, my goodness.
Put that in my notes. Something so ridiculous. But, I mean, he just was confident and he was really good with the customers and, you know, he could handle a problem and he was just like a man. And it wasn't long before she and Bob were talking on the phone quite a lot, all hours of the night. And she had written a letter to her fiance back in London ending things.
Oh.
Sent the ring back and everything.
Oh.
Yeah. And things were full steam ahead with Bob at that point. Once she had broken off her engagement.
Now, was he older than her or?
He was.
Okay.
Yes, he was older than her.
I guess you'll get there. I don't know.
Actually, no, I don't get there. I don't get there.
Like, am I jumping?
He was older than her. Not like a ton older, but he was an older guy. I mean, I think her dad was like, who's this guy? You know?
Yeah.
But they dated for the next year and a half and they married in May of 1983. Things were good. Ish. American Airlines was offering resignation incentives to employees to downside loads of departments at that time. And Bob was offered $10,000 to essentially quit his job, to resign.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, $10,000 and I don't have to work. That would be me.
But what are you going to do next?
Listen, back in the 80s, that was some good change.
True.
That was a good chunk.
True, but how fast is he going to blow through it?
Right. It's not sustainable.
Right.
To take 10 grand and think you don't have to work anymore. So he did take the money. He was newly married, which seems like the opposite of what you do as a new husband, but it's Bob we're talking about. And so Bob suggested that he and Lex, his father-in-law, go into business together.
Oh.
Lex was like, okay. I mean, if anything, I'm helping him earn an income, which helps my daughter.
Right.
So,
okay.
Just like any dad would probably do this. They called the company Baker and Fratta Co. Very quickly, Lex got a front row seat to the type of guy that his daughter was married to. He was a scrub. I mean, just all that. It was that superficial.
Yeah.
Everything about him, the charm, the manliness. Besides, he really did have muscles, but I will post some
That's all he
pictures
had
of
going for him.
In his stupid 80s tracksuits and stuff. It was just all a ruse. It just felt like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, he would come to work late. He would sometimes not come at all. And Lex knew right up front, like a week or two in, this isn't going to work. Because he had work ethic. He expected him to come in.
Like
he expected him to work. And Bob just thought, oh, if I'm a business owner,
I don't have to work.
I can just do nothing.
Yeah, I can make someone else work for me.
Someone else can work for me. That's not how it works in the beginning.
No.
You have to like get to that place.
It takes dedication.
Exactly. Now, Farah at this time was working overtime and picking up extra shifts because Bob, having dissolved the business with his father-in-law, decided he wanted to become a fireman.
Oh.
A fireman. Why'd I say it like that?
A fireman.
A fireman.
He's a man of fire.
He had depleted his $10,000 nest egg.
Surprise, surprise.
Right. And he was out of job. And so she had to pay for him to go get his certificate.
Oh my goodness.
In firemanery. I don't know. I don't know what they called it back in the 80s. Be a certified fireman. So after Bob began working as a fireman, he and Farah found out they were expecting their first child. Pretty quick turnaround after the baby was born and Farah was pregnant again.
Oh.
The marriage, I mean, at this point had been deteriorating day by day. They were expecting this other baby, not ideal. She was always very even keel. Her family started noticing a flat affect, low energy, depressed.
And that does happen a lot when your hormones are up and down.
I'm sure that didn't help. I mean, she was unhappy in her marriage, but you're right.
Yeah. I mean, all of it put together was, bless her heart.
Oh man, perfect storm. Her dad said, if Farah had an issue, it doesn't matter what it was, she would try and fix it herself. She wouldn't ask for help. That's just like to her fault. But you can't fix someone else's behavior.
Right.
I'm sure she herself was doing everything she could to improve her marriage.
Yeah.
But it takes two.
Absolutely.
To care.
It's a partnership.
Exactly. So all that wasted effort, all that wasted energy. Yeah, she probably was depleted of energy, and she was growing a human.
Yeah.
It just got too much for her, and she said multiple times that she was fed up and wanted a divorce. I mean, she had mentioned it a lot to her family. One point, they actually physically separated, but that only lasted a month, and she took him back. And when they got back together, Farah got pregnant again.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It drove her dad nuts because he's like,
sure.
You're not happy with this person, yet you keep having babies with this person. Like, stop it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he was taking advantage of her. I mean, it sounds like he just took what he wanted.
Yeah, he did. Oh, he did. And he wanted to take more and more and more. And listen, Lex and her mom didn't know the details. They didn't know why she was so unhappy. She didn't want to talk about it. Oh. She kept everything vague. She said, look, I don't want to go into it.
Oh, man.
But I want a divorce. Just trust me. So 1990 rolls around, and they're not only still together, but they welcomed that baby girl into their family. Farah really at this point was focusing on her children. She was unhappy, but she found joy in them, and she thought, I'll stick it out for them.
Yeah. As a lot of people do.
But she ended up filing for divorce in 1992. She could only handle it for a couple more years. And Bob fought this hard. He didn't want a divorce. He wanted his cake and extra icing on it, and he wanted to eat it too.
Yeah.
He tried talking to Farah into having an open marriage.
No, sir.
She was like, I don't like you in a box, and I don't like you with a fox. Like, why would I want to stay married to you and then you be sleeping with other women? That probably would make me like you less. Yeah. I'm thinking. Also, let's not forget who wanted the divorce in the first place.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Anyway, once she had hired an attorney, there was a hearing that granted her temporary sole custody of the children while the divorce and other custody matters were being worked out. I think the courts always hope that with a mediator, you can come to an agreement on your own.
Right.
But she knew, and everyone else who knew him knew, that that's not how this was going to go down. When the divorce papers were served on him, he threw them to the wind and said, she'll be dead before she can ever get a divorce.
Ooh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Ominous words. There was a moment, though, after the papers were filed, that Farah met with Bob.
Oh.
And she thought, can we make this work?
Oh, Farah.
Like we said, she was concerned about her children being passed back and forth. A lot of people can't imagine putting their kids through that.
Yeah.
A divorce. And we've talked about this before, like when we talk about domestic violence, finances. I mean, when you have joint finances with someone,
you lose a lot.
How could you make it on your own?
Yeah.
Like, I think women especially think, I can't support myself and 3 children. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so she was really hesitant to officially separate their lives
Mm-hmm.
like that. So she decided to take him back. But Bob had a list of demands.
Oh, gosh.
If he was going to consider
this guy
staying with her,
ew.
He wanted her to do some things for him.
Okay.
Again, he's forgetting who filed for divorce in the first place. But this is how manipulative and controlling he was.
Yeah.
He told her he wanted her to do weird sex things with him.
Of course he did.
He said, you know, I lost my virginity at 22. So I've got...
Oh, my gosh.
I need to make up for lost time. Listen, that's on you, my dude.
Yeah.
It's not anyone else's fault that you didn't lose your virginity till 22.
But that's just...
I mean,
there's more to life.
right? But he was feeling left out. He was feeling deprived.
Oh, come on.
Oh, and he wanted her to get breast implants, which he'd been basically asking her to do since they got married, practically.
Oh, my gosh.
She went through with the surgery.
Girl.
He said, I'll pay for it.
Well,
she
I
went
mean,
through
I'm
with the
sure
surgery.
she thought maybe I'd feel better after 3 kids.
Well, listen, I got some flapjacks over here, and I can attest to maybe
the 3 kids.
Maybe, someone saying, I'll pay for your surgery. And you go, I know you want me to have bigger boobs, but it would be nice to have like something in there. So she went through with the surgery in August of 1992. And a month later, Bob moved back in for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
He was not kidding about those demands, Lena.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he still wanted an open marriage, not just to be able to sleep with other people, but he wanted to like have threesomes. He wanted her to sleep with other people in front of him. And the divorce was back on. She was like, I can't believe I ever thought that this was going to be a good idea.
Yeah.
And she thought, the kids will figure it out. We'll figure it out with the kids.
Yeah. It'll be at this point, it would be so much better.
It would be better. Ugh. Exactly. So I know it's hard to take her seriously at this point in the story, but this was it.
Okay.
She stuck to her guns this time. But the divorce would drag out and drag out and drag out for well past 2 years before Farah was murdered.
Well, because he said he was going to make it tough on her.
That's it. And he did. Now, let's go back to the murder and let's talk about the investigation, because the night of the murder, Harris County police officers were joined by Detective Frank Pratt at the crime scene just after 10 p.m. I think like, I've been rewatching Dexter and, they get there when the police get there, like all the crime scene techs and the detectives, they all arrive at the same time, but that's not true because people are on call. You're calling up a detective. Yeah. He may be at his son's baseball game. You don't know.
Right.
So they get there when they get there. Mm-hmm. And in this situation, it was just after 10 p.m. This is one of those situations where life-saving measures took precedent over preserving the crime scene. Mm-hmm. All that really remained at the scene, because she had been taken at that point and had died, was trash all over the garage floor from the paramedics, working on her, which, by the way, we got to fix that too. We got to fix the crime scene cleanup, and we've got to fix the crime scene cleanup. You know what I mean?
Well, that's like the case that I just did on Art. The paramedics left trash all in that crime scene. So that made me think of that.
And I see why they do it. One, they don't have time to mess with cleaning up after they're rushing someone off to save their lives.
As long as they're not leaving needles and such. Like, this is gloves and
papers and like gauze and, wrappings. But also, I wonder if the police want that left behind, maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's another reason why.
Who knows? I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll have to look into it.
Maybe there's some evidentiary value in it.
Okay.
Or maybe they want to see. I don't know. I just feel like, why would you leave it behind? Just clean it up.
Because in my mind, it's just because you don't think about it. You're just thinking
no, they
about.
don't think about it. And just that's the other thing is one of our very first episodes ever, we were like, can you believe that people have to clean up their own house when someone dies in their house?
Yeah.
Like, nobody comes in and, I mean, you can hire someone to come clean, but nobody's
And you
saying,
have all this remnants.
Right.
You've got
blood all over the walls. Your mattress is soaked in blood. Like,
yeah.
So anyways, so as authorities were learning about what the neighbors across the street saw, they noticed that Farah's purse was laying near the driver's side. All its contents accounted for. And it didn't even look like it had been touched by the shooter, like opened, rifled through, nothing. This didn't appear to be a robbery.
Right.
There were no signs of a break-in in her home, or the garage for this matter. They believed this person was laying in wait. However, I couldn't really piece it together in my mind. The book describes how there was a breezeway going from the garage to her home.
Okay.
Like she had to go through the garage door into the breezeway into her home.
Okay.
I think because all the doors were locked, I think that he may have been waiting on the other side of that exterior door to the garage. And when she opened it, he came in.
Oh.
Because everything was locked up. So
okay.
I think he was waiting for her in that way instead of like waiting for her in the garage. I know that's a stupid detail, but that's how my mind works. I'm like, where was he waiting? You know?
Well, yeah, if the neighbors didn't see him in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. So all signs were pointing to this being planned.
Yeah.
I mean, he was waiting somewhere. The shooter was either already in her garage or right outside that door when she pulled her car in. They found 2 bullet fragments at the scene. One was actually lodged in a child's life vest.
Oh.
That was hanging on the wall.
Wow.
And another piece was laying on the floor. Know what else was at the scene? Or who else, I should say? Bob Fratta. He was still there.
Okay.
After all that time.
So he just walked up with the kids.
He walked up with the kids. He's like, what's going on? I want to speak with someone. The children were in his VW. I don't know if it was a bug or whatever it was, but it was a VW. An officer finally approached him to get some information, and he seemed a bit inconvenienced by the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He asked, could they expedite this because his children were in the car and he'd been waiting for a long time to speak with someone.
Well, you can leave, sir.
Right. He was waiting there a long time, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. You don't have to stay.
Yeah.
Like, if you're concerned about your children, then take them.
Well, that's it. They were like, why don't you take your kids to a friend's house and follow us to the station and we'll talk there. And he did. He dropped them off with, he actually, there was a babysitter that used to babysit the kids. He dropped them off at her parents' house.
Oh my goodness.
Like, oh, your daughter's not home. Do you mind?
Can you just take them?
Right.
Oh my goodness.
It's 10 o'clock at night. While getting settled into the interrogation room, the detectives were pretty taken aback by how unbothered this guy was that the mother of his children was dead. Mm-hmm. And yes, they had shared that with him at this point. He was calm and informed that he was also a police officer because he did, yeah. When he was a firefighter, he also became a police officer.
Okay. Jack of all trades.
I know. In neighboring Missouri City. Bob was confident. He was very in control of his emotions. He explained to detectives that he and Farah were getting a divorce and that he had visitation with his children that day. Bob picked up his and Farah's 3 children, 7, 5, and 4 years old, from school that day. And then they went back to his house to feed his pets, one of which was a snake. And that tells you absolutely everything you need to know about this guy. Why? Why do you need to have a snake? I don't know.
You don't.
Oh, I feel like it's on me. Oh,
my sister-in-law has one and I just can't. She's like, you want to hold it? No. You can put him right back in his case.
This. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I know that you've kept that information from me as a protection.
Because you're not supposed to say the S word.
I know. Don't say the S word. Ugh. Anyway, after their pit stop at home, he took his kids to eat at Wyatt's cafeteria. Isn't that just such a dad place to take your kids? Like, doesn't it just sound like your dad would take you to Wyatt's cafeteria?
What is it, a buffet?
I don't know, maybe. But then they went on to Wednesday night church service at St. Mary's Catholic Church. His oldest son was having his last catechism class, and the younger two went to nursery that night. Bob said he remained at the church while the children were in class. He stayed for the parents' meeting, and then they left the church about 8:30 p.m. They stopped back by the house to tend to the animals again.
Okay.
They stopped at a convenience store so he could buy the kids some candy.
Late at night.
Exactly. You're thinking like a mom. And then they arrived back at Farah's house to this chaotic scene. Pretty solid alibi, I would say. He was with his kids all day. He was at church. But it nagged at authorities just how much anger Bob had for his dead wife. And he admitted as much to them. I mean, he essentially despised her, and he was not worried about holding that back at all. He said, they had been in a custody battle for 2 years, and the divorce was just not going well, the agreement to everything and splitting everything up. But he didn't want her dead.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that, even though he said as much. He revealed that the final custody hearing was in a couple of weeks. The final custody hearing that was going to determine which parent got sole custody.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, throughout this whole process, like all these hearings, the court is just, they're just being unfair to me. Like, he just said he was the underdog, and like he felt like he was getting the bad rap in the deal.
Oh, get over yourself.
And detectives would eventually learn all the dirty details that I just told you about. But even without all that information, they did not like the cut of his jib.
Mm-hmm.
Bob's pager kept going off in this interrogation. He asked to borrow their phone. Elena.
I cannot with this guy.
His pager kept going off, and he's like, "Can I call? Do you mind if I use your phone?" What? What?
What is so important, sir?
Anyway, they let him use the phone because, they're like, yes, please, deposit evidence. Please. He signed a written statement. He let police look in his car. There wasn't really anything in his car other than, they saw a 9mm pistol, which he's a cop, so it's not unusual that he's packing. But then they see this white envelope, unmarked, with $1,050 cash inside. $1,050. That's all. No note, no bank receipt, no ATM, no transaction, nothing written on the note, on the envelope. And so he takes this in, and on his way in, he's like, this is murder for hire. Like, this detective is like, I already know what this is.
Yeah. Sounds like a slam dunk.
Right. So he takes it in, and he's like, that's a lot of money to just be carrying around. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh yeah, I had some work done on my house, and I was hoping to like run into that subcontractor today, and I never did.
Right.
I was either going to see him today or tomorrow, so I just wanted to have the cash to give him. Fair enough. Okay, I got it. So Bob finished answering all their questions and left the station. By now, It was afternoon the next day.
Whoa.
He had been there forever.
Wow.
Those detectives had questioned him for like 15 hours. And all they had at the end of it was just a hunch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had nothing really to go on. But when Bob stepped outside, there were cameras.
Oh.
There were... and he just thought, they're here for me. They're here for me.
Did he have stars in his eyes?
He did. His eyes went like SpongeBob, like real big and bright and welled up with tears. He told the reporters, he had been there all night since the night before, and he showed them the scratch on his cheek from where the police tossed his keys back to him and he didn't catch them and they hit his face instead. So he's like, oh yeah, they're manhandling me in there, man.
Oh my gosh, this guy.
Yeah, and he said, but look, I understand why I'm the prime suspect.
Do you?
I understand. I'm the husband. I'm the estranged husband. I would never hurt her, and I really hope they catch who did this. I'll try to find some clips of him and post it on our Patreon. Can we judge this, though? I mean, do you remember the case we did on the McDonald family murders?
Yes.
And how the dad in that case, was going on talk shows.
Yeah.
Laughing. And I don't think he murdered his family. Like, I think there was plenty of other evidence to support the fact that what he was saying was true. Like, there were people that broke into his house. I'll link that in the show notes, and like the audio's the audio's probably really bad. But I think some men are just like that. They like the attention.
Oh, for sure.
And they don't know what to do with their hands. Like, it's like, when you don't know what to do with your hands and you're like, oh, I don't know. Anyways, I'll take off my therapist lab coat. As the detectives continued to canvass and collect evidence and dig their way to something tangible against Bob, Detective Larry Davis thought he recognized Farah's house. He was like, something about that house, that name rings a bell. And it dawned on him that he had been there 4 months earlier.
Oh.
Yeah. He was called to a suspected home invasion.
Oh.
Farah Fratta called 911 back in June of that year to report that she had been attacked in her home by a man wearing a ski mask.
Oh. Yes.
She said her younger son was sleeping in her bed with her when this intruder bust through the room and asked for Robert Fratta.
Okay.
And she was like, he's not here. And then the little boy sits up and he goes, who's that? And she's like, it's my son. And so she's screaming, like, get out.
Yeah.
And this wakes up the other two children. The other two children come running in the room.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And she was like, listen, whatever you plan to do next, please don't do it in front of my kids.
Oh.
She just was thinking about her kids. What a mama. Just protect my kids. I don't care what happens to me, but just don't let them see anything.
Like, if you have any compassion in you.
I know.
Coming into my home.
So the man shoved all the kids out of the room. And he climbed up on top of her on the bed and zapped her with a stun gun.
What?
And then, like, he took off. It was stupid. It was like he was like, well, the kids are here and I wasn't expecting that. So I'm out.
Yeah.
So as soon as he left, he actually grabbed her cordless telephone and took it with him. But she had another phone in her house. Imagine that.
Right. As you do.
So she picked up the phone and called 911. And she explained what had happened. The police arrived and they saw, like, they're looking for an entry point. And they saw this tiny little hole drilled through the back door.
Oh.
So, like, they think he drilled through the lock to get in the house. It seemed really, like, organized and professional. But other than the invasion itself, she was alive and well. I mean, she was zapped with a stun gun, but nobody was really harmed.
Yeah. And for what? Like,
right.
What was the motive of all that?
Well, that's the thing. They felt like it was Bob. Mm-hmm. Everyone felt she knew it.
In hindsight, we know that now.
Oh, we know it now. But she knew it. She was like, he's going to try to kill me. Mm. Police knew it. They just didn't have anything. Mm-hmm. There were no fingerprints. Nobody saw anything. So the case went cold. And now the detective is remembering that happened, mm-hmm. which sounds an awful lot like her actual murder. If you think about it, someone ambushes her in her own home. Bob was looking real good for this, but he was at church, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, police had already verified his alibi. So who else was involved in this? There had to have been someone.
Right.
The motive reeked of a targeted hit because, like I said, the crime scene spoke loud and clear. It didn't appear to be a robbery. Mm-hmm. Looking at Bob's usual pattern of behavior was also very telling. After church that night, Robert stayed for the parents' meeting at the church, which he never did. Oh. Never, ever, ever, ever. Can we also talk about the multiple trips to the house for the animals?
Like, animals will be okay for a few hours.
They had just been there.
Yeah.
A couple hours before when they ate, and then they went to church service.
Sounds like you're trying to waste some time, sir.
What about that stop at the convenience store to buy your kids candy at 8:30 p.m.?
No, you can do that next time you see them.
No, this doesn't feel right. It feels like you were delaying your arrival.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Phone records from the church were pulled because police learned that he was getting beeps at church.
Oh, this guy's important.
And he was using the church office phone to call these numbers.
Okay, so please tell me there was record of these phone numbers.
Yeah, there was. And, speaking of which, he was so obsessed with, like, his 7-year-old son was also interviewed. Oh. And he said that when they were at dinner that night, his dad was going outside and calling people back on the payphone.
Oh.
He just was. And
just leaving your kids inside this restaurant to go, wow.
7, 5 and 4?
No.
And when they went home to feed all the animals, he was on the phone the whole time.
Wow.
So, like, what's he on the phone about this whole entire time? Okay.
Yeah.
You're not that. That's not it. You're not that popular. And it was these phone records that would be a major break in the case. They discovered that one of the numbers he called belonged to a woman named Mary Gipp. 2 detectives went over to talk to Mary, and she said, "Oh yeah, I know of Farah and Bob Fratta through the health club."
Okay.
Yeah.
So why were you
She's
talking
like,
to him so many times?
My friend goes to the health club that they're at, and I've heard of them, but I don't know them personally. And he's like, "So why is your phone all over these records?" And she's like, "Well, I left my phone in my car. Maybe someone used it."
Okay. Likely story.
I think it was a car phone. Not an actual cellular phone. I think it was one of those car phones that you plug in, because she had this that she used it for work, and she said that she kept it in her car, which I know it sounds weird to you youngins, but my mom had a car phone, and it was in a big old box, and you had to plug it into the the cigarette lighter thing. And that
they don't even have cigarette lighters anymore. I had to explain that to Chase the other day.
That's so funny. I remember that. So it kind of makes sense to me that she would have kept it in her car.
Yeah.
But
but who's just gonna
that's it.
Go to your car?
Who has access to the car? She mentions her boyfriend. She had bought her boyfriend a pager so that he could stay in touch with his friend Bob, which is is so weird for so many reasons. Like there's just a lot of weirdness to that.
A pager just to stay in touch with one
for
person?
So many reasons.
Yeah.
But they thought that too. They were like, okay, you bought your boyfriend a pager so he can stay in touch with his friend from the health club. All right. Her and her boyfriend, Joe Prytash. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
We don't care. They'd been dating just a few months. They pressed her about where Joe was the night of the murder, but she said that he was at their apartment all night watching TV, and she wasn't really wanting to say much more than that. They asked for a statement. She said, nah. So they went and found her boyfriend, Joe, see if maybe he will fess up to anything.
Give the same story.
Right. So he denied any involvement. He agreed to take a polygraph. In fact, he took 3 polygraphs.
Really?
3 polygraphs. He failed them all.
He's like, let me try again.
Yeah, he's like, no, let me do it again. Let me do it again. I promise this time. You know, the results don't prove anything.
Right.
It just sure helps them know that they're connecting the dots right.
Right.
They're doing this in the right order. Joe didn't give police much after that, but luckily his girlfriend was kind of falling apart behind the scenes. She had hired an attorney and told him everything that she knew.
Oh.
Which was everything.
Good. Like, I don't know how you could handle yourself.
Oh, I don't know. She
knowing all
the
this.
thing, she could not sleep. She could not focus on work.
Yeah. I mean, this should not be in your DNA to be able to.
That's it. Is like most people couldn't just carry on.
Yeah.
Even we talked about this in our last episode. How could you kill someone and then go about your life?
Yeah.
Most people can't even know about a murder and go about their life.
It's not natural.
It's not natural. She told police that after she started putting all of this together, that the men were planning a hit on Bob's estranged wife. She even looked for Farah's phone number to call her and warn her.
Oh my
but
gosh.
she couldn't find it.
Then
I don't know how
there.
hard she looked or
can you find
whatever.
her house?
Yeah. It wasn't though that she put it all together on her own inklings, because her boyfriend Joe came home and told her everything that had just happened.
Hey honey, guess what we're doing?
Right. How he'd been hired to find someone to kill Farah, and that who he hired was Howard Guidry, who actually shot and killed Farah.
Oh.
Fun fact about Howard Guidry. He had been arrested shortly after Farah's murder for a bank robbery he was involved in.
This guy.
He was 18 years old.
Oh my gosh. You ruined your life.
18. He had already murdered someone. He's robbing banks. Like,
what?
Yeah. So he had confessed to the bank robbery when he was tracked down, and he confessed to murdering Farah. He included Joe Prytash. I don't care. And he says some guy named Bob that wanted his wife dead.
Oh, some guy.
Mm-hmm. Now, they had enough at this point to go arrest Joe. They had Mary's statements.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have Howard Guidry's statements. He's already confessed to murdering Farah, and he's just like, yeah, he was in on it too. I mean, he's going to lie about that.
Yeah.
So they arrested Joe.
I mean, don't shoot the messenger.
I mean, right. But he initially denied involvement like he did the first time.
Yeah.
But he was like, if you could get me a cold, crisp Coca-Cola and maybe a pizza, I'll tell you everything. Hey, as a fatty, I can identify.
I'm a little hungry.
You know what? A Coke sounds real good. And they got him a pack of cigarettes. So he spilled the tea. Joe is the one who named Bob Fratta as the mastermind, because all they knew was Bob. They know who he was talking about, but he put the last name with it, which confirmed their hunch.
Right.
He said that Bob Fratta was promising up to $5,000 in installments, of course, for the murder of his wife. Joe said Howard was hard up for money, and he was willing to do just about anything to get a little bit of cash. And
a little
he knew,
18-year-old kid.
Yeah, he's like, he'll agree to it. And he was interested the minute so Joe tells Howard, he's going to give you $1,000 and maybe more.
Oh.
So he was going to keep some of the money.
Of course he was.
Mm-hmm. So Bob Fratta was finally arrested on April 21st, 1995, and all three men were indicted in June of that year, all three charged with capital murder, facing the death penalty.
Oof.
At trial, the prosecution laid out their case for the jury. Kelly Siegler, you may recognize that name if you're if you've been consuming true crime for a while. She's amazing. I love her jib. She's a Texan. And so anyway, the long and short of it was that Bob Fratta hired Joseph, who then he was basically a middleman, who then hired Howard to kill Fratta. And this was not their first attempt. They had many other ideas. They had discussed many other scenarios, and that home invasion was probably the first attempt.
Yeah.
So the state alleged that the motive for this murder was truly, at its core, Bob hated Farah. I mean, yeah, he wanted custody of the children, but it was only to maintain control over her.
Yeah.
A social worker that was in charge of their custody arrangements testified at trial, and she said that Bob expressed that he didn't want primary custody of his kids, but he wanted to know where they were, what they were doing, which, like, every parent wants to know that about their children, but they also want to be with their children.
Right.
So he just wanted the control.
For sure.
He wanted to help her or be involved in making medical decisions, like anything that had to do with education or their welfare. But Farah didn't want him involved at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll find out why.
Well, he hated her because she rejected him.
Well, she wanted to move. She wanted to move out of that house, move somewhere else. He wouldn't let her move. Yeah, without his agreement to let her move, she wasn't going anywhere. No. Bob always complained to people about being broke because of all his child support that he had to pay, all the attorney's fees.
Well, these are the decisions that you make in your life.
And he was like, why can't she pay me child support? Why can't I have the kids and she pay me?
Well, because you're not a great guy.
Right. And sometimes he would even be like, well, if she was dead, I wouldn't have to pay child support. I mean, he just flapped his gums openly to everyone. He didn't just tell people he hated her. He was happy to see her dead. After asking several people he knew to kill her.
Oh my gosh.
Including a longtime friend, a guy from his tanning salon, and an ex-girlfriend. He conceded, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself.
And all these people knew and didn't warn a soul.
They just all thought, like, his longtime friend that he asked, he was like, you need to see a doctor. You really do. Like, if you're having thoughts like this, you really need to get help. Everyone else probably just thought he was like, just saying things he didn't mean. But all these people were called to the stand. There were tons of them, not just the three I mentioned. I mean, there was...
to see his face during this.
He's rubbing shoulders in his little wellness club, and he's like, hey, you want a job? I mean, he wouldn't quit.
Wow.
He had so much confidence. He was blinded by any of the consequences for this. Farah's own words were used in her murder trial. She had been deposed in the ongoing custody battle that she had been in before the murder. Farah testified that her husband became increasingly cruel towards her in the years before she had filed for divorce, and it just became too much for her. She was questioning his morals. I mean, he never was like a religious person. She was Catholic, but she said he never cared about religion or faith or anything like that. And his morals were very sketchy. And she said that she was scared for her children's safety because one of the boys got bit by that snake Bob had.
Oh, no.
Ugh. When Bob learned of all the things that she had divulged in her deposition, he became enraged.
Oh.
And after that, he was actively trying to find someone to kill her. And everyone just thought he was blowing off steam because of the things she said. So Bob begins socializing with new people that weren't his normal crowd because he had already gone through his circle of friends, his circle of acquaintances, and nobody wanted to kill his wife for him. So he ends up meeting Joe Pricedash at the President and First Lady Health Club, where Joe was also a member. And Mary Gibb, Joe's girlfriend, said that in the weeks leading up to the murder, Bob and Joe were butt buddies. I mean, they were suddenly spending all this time together, you know, talking on the phone and meeting privately. And she's like, okay, I'll buy you a beeper so you can keep in touch with him.
Okay.
But Mary said that she overheard conversations that they had on the phone, sounded like they were planning something. And then the night of the murder, she got home and found Howard Guidry dressed in all black, waiting there for Joe. When Joe got home, they left together. So it seemed like things were happening like she thought they were going to happen. And the rest of Mary's testimony was very damning for everyone involved also. I mean, she even recovered and saved 2 spent shells that were thrown away in her trash can in the kitchen. Yeah. She initially kept them hidden in her bedroom, but she was worried that some police would find them and think she was involved. So she threw them away at a mall.
Oh my gosh.
She thought about taking them to police, but instead she threw them away in front of the Cinnabon, probably.
Shouldn't that be some kind of charge against her? Like
tampering?
Yeah.
Seems like it. I
mean, because she had every opportunity.
Yeah.
She just tell somebody.
She didn't want to be culpable in this. Like she thought that anything, like having those shells, they had the weapon, which they ended up giving to Howard Guidry to dispose of. And he told them that he disposed of it in the water somewhere. She thought he did. He didn't.
Oh.
Yeah. He kept the gun because he was proud of what he had done.
Well, and he wanted to use it again, I'm sure.
Right. And which, by the way, the detectives recovered the gun and were able to do ballistic testing.
Oh.
So ballistics testing, which was great evidence at trial. Mary's account was critical to the state's case. She even testified that part of Joe's payment was to be a Jeep.
Oh.
And he was supposed to pass on this $1,000 to Howard for his part in things. They were actually supposed to meet at the wellness club that night to exchange the money, which is why Bob had that money in his glove box.
Right.
He fully intended to pay him that night. But when Bob didn't show up, they got really pissed off. But he was at the popo station being questioned.
They didn't think he was going to be caught so fast.
Caught. Right. Yeah. Exactly. The jury learned about all the telephone and pager records. That's right. Pager records. Children. It was a thing. Revealing times, locations of these correspondence between him and him and him and him and this combination of this person and them. You know what I mean? It's just like, it was all there in black and white. And the picture was very clear to the jury. Robert Fratta, Bob, found guilty of capital murder, sentenced to death. So were the other two.
Oh, really?
Sentenced to death.
So are they still sitting on death row?
Okay, well, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Bob's conviction was overturned by a federal judge who said that the confession from Joe Pristash should have never been admissible.
How do you just let a trial go on, let it make its decisions, and then just...
So I read the appeal brief, and I was confused. I was confused because I was like, why? Why wouldn't his testimony, why wouldn't his confession, including Bob, not be admissible? I couldn't find the answer.
Yeah,
so I dug, I couldn't find the answer. But the judge did believe that Robert wanted his wife dead. So his conviction was overturned.
Oh, okay.
But he was retried.
He did get a retrial. Oh, wow.
He was sentenced to death again in 2009.
What?
That's right. After Bob's conviction, his and Farah's children took her maiden name of Baker.
Okay.
They had been living with their grandparents, Farah's parents, since her death. Bob's attorney appealed, claiming that the prosecutors withheld information from them about the state's witnesses being hypnotized. Okay. Oh
my gosh.
This particular witness was hypnotized. They claim that after she was hypnotized, she changed her testimony. But the prosecution said she didn't change her testimony. She just thought she remembered something different.
There was an additional detail.
It was an additional detail. Anyways, the appeal failed. So did all the other appeals, citing things like insufficient evidence, jury misconduct, inadequate jury instructions, which I read through the jury instructions as well. And it's like, how I just don't understand how you can. Anyway,
they were trying everything.
I'm going to link that in the show notes if you're a freak like me, if you want to match my freak. Bob filed a lawsuit to halt his execution, claiming that the state was using expired execution drugs. I mean,
he is grasping at straws.
The drugs are expired, so there's a chance it won't work and you might live? Is that the argument?
If they're expired, what's it gonna, what are you afraid it's gonna do?
Right.
Yeah.
He tried to get his death sentence commuted or granted a little more time via a 60-day reprieve. Why? 60 days? I mean, what for?
Because he values his own life over...
He was chicken. Bob always claimed his innocence right up until the end. Bob was executed at Huntsville Penitentiary by lethal injection. They were probably expired in January of 2023. So I found this case because of his execution. He died. The media thought that we should know that he died 24 minutes after the lethal dose of pentobarbital was administered.
24 minutes.
24 minutes. I hope he choked. Farah's son attended his father's execution.
Oh, how hard. How difficult would that be?
Yeah, he went with his uncle. And
oh, wow.
He said afterwards to a reporter, quote, "Bob was a coward in 1994 when he arranged for the murder for hire of his estranged wife." He continued, quote, "And 28 plus years later, he still was a coward tonight. When he was offered an opportunity to at least extend an olive branch to his son that he knew was watching this, he could have at least said, 'I'm sorry,'" end quote. It crushes me that Farah gave our country a chance. Like she can't, she was like, I'll give it a chance. And then this happens.
But she gave 3 beautiful kids to the world.
That's it. That's the silver lining. I mean, I'm sure her parents are like, what if we never moved here? You know? But like you said, the children were a gift. Farah was beautiful, kind, and intelligent. And she got stuck in this cycle of domestic unhappiness. I mean, I didn't see any reporting of her being physically abused, but no doubt she was unappreciated, mentally mistreated. He was rude to her. He did what he wanted. And she had the children, so she was so concerned about staying and just putting up with it. I hope her children are thriving and continuing to cope with their loss, even after all this time. I'm sure.
Her son sounds like he's already he's better man.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they've totally cut all ties.
Yeah.
But that's all I got for you.
Oh, man. There's so much in that case.
I wanted to spend more time on her backstory than the trial, the convictions, all the aftermath that we normally focus on because it's so heavily reported.
Yeah.
And I had the advantage of using that book. So
yeah, I mean, goodness gracious. You gave us a lot of information on her, and she sounds like a beautiful person. And one thing that stuck out to me is the neighbors just being so on it. The other, 3 days ago, we heard 2 gunshots here in my neighborhood, and it rattled our back window.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody in our backyard connected to us was like, I heard it. It sounded like it was right in our backyard. And it's just like, it was dark. We turned out all of our lights, and Chris and I are the dummies that go outside. But it's just,
Chris is packing. He's got his gun drawn. He's ready.
We didn't hear any screams or screeches or anything, but you have to pay attention.
And you're like, why is someone firing a gun?
Yeah. I mean, fireworks.
In a neighborhood.
Yeah.
If you want to fire a gun for no reason, go to the driving range and the driving range? The shooting range. Sorry,
exactly.
Daniel makes me listen to him talk about golf. And
it's in your brain.
It's ingrained. But yeah, go to the shooting range and practice. There's no reason to be shooting off a gun.
Well, and we hear lots of fireworks going off here. So, but no, it was not fireworks. I know the difference, but no, just thinking about that, that was brought to my mind whenever you're telling me she just hears this gunshot and then looks, and there's the scene right in front of her.
Yeah, and she sees it all unfolding.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm sure she lives with, that
the
stuff
memory
of her own.
Yeah.
I don't think she was very particularly close to Farah. I think she knew her,
right,
as a neighbor.
Yeah.
But man,
wow. Well, rest in peace, Farah.
Fly high.
Well, that was great. Let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Cousins on Crime. Get connected with us by becoming a free member on our Patreon. Or for just $5 a month, you'll have access to bonus episodes, discussion groups, and much more. If you can't afford $5 a month, we get it. Inflation, am I right? Please consider leaving us a positive review and rating wherever you listen.
And don't forget merch. Support our podcast and show the love by sporting t-shirts with our latest designs, or grab an evidence bag to keep the chain of custody for all your valuables. Don't forget to follow our show on your favorite streaming app so you never miss an episode, and get photos and updates on our Instagram at Cousins on Crime Podcast or our Cousins on Crime Facebook page. Have a case suggestion? Email us at cousinsoncrime@gmail.com.